now. While we're waiting on Christina to join us, Professor Polk is going to give us a little information. Take it away.
All right, let me share my correct screen here. So, hi, my name is Josh Polk, and I am site director in Indianapolis for our program. I wanted to just give a little spiel because some of you might be coming in and not be familiar with our program. We try to advertise these speaker series across as much as we can. But on the website that you came in on, PurdueThemedEntertainment.com, there is some information about our different programs. Or if you're not as familiar with themed entertainment, there's a nice video here that explains that it's the theme parks that we love, but also a lot of things beyond that. Some of the programs that we have an undergraduate bachelor's degree. We have an online certificate program. So if you are a working professional or somebody in the field that want to pivot into this field or just learn more about it for fun, we've got some really cool classes coming in our certificate program, actually. You can learn about that, and it's actually a pretty good price compared to a lot of other things out there. And if you're a Purdue student already, you can get a minor in themed entertainment. It's 5 classes. They're all online, so you can do that from West Lafayette or wherever you may be. So if you have any questions about those, I will try to throw my email address in the chat, and there's some contact info on here. And also at the bottom of this page, you can connect to our Instagram page. And then we also have a YouTube page where we post the videos from these sessions as well. And you can revisit those on the Speaker Series website. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you, Josh.
Mhm.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today we have Christina Hall, who is with Disney Imagineering. We know that's the gold standard that everyone's excited to become a part of. So use this opportunity to learn all you can about Disney Imagineering and make sure that if you have questions, you type them into the chat and we will address those towards the end. Because we definitely want to give it a little bit of an opportunity to have questions and answers. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christina for her to give her information.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you guys and just kind of talk about what a crazy journey I've had from just starting out not knowing how to do anything. And I started with an interest in drawing in high school, and I got into art in general. Took some painting classes, went to CSUN. I'm from California originally. And I did about half of my undergrad degree there, and I finished my undergrad degree in Indiana. I did about 2.5 years there at IUPUI through the IU side. Um, so after that, I was able to get a job immediately doing like product renders for a few people, and that jumped over to motion graphics. So I was animating in After Effects, doing some 2D, some 3D, not as much 3D as I was hoping, but still great skills that I picked up there. And then I realized, like, okay, things are kind of like stagnating. So I think it's time for me to like go back to school and round myself out a little more and get to whatever level I need to be to go into the industry and work on film and TV or wherever it may go. So I went to the Noman School of Visual Effects in Hollywood at the time. I think they moved over. Um, and that was an amazing experience. It was a 2-year program. It was about uh, like 6 classes a quarter, so it was a lot of information very quickly. And exiting that, I was able to get an internship at Halon Entertainment, which is a previs company, and that started to really open the door to this world of previs. Previs is not terribly glamorous, but it is a very fun and not really talked about field that much. This is like kind of the most impactful step, I think, in a production. So I got to work on SpongeBob. The movie was like my first film, and I was doing like previs characters, so I was modeling and texturing. Um, and we were just kind of like figuring out the blocking of like important scenes. So like the back half of the movie, I think it was the second SpongeBob movie that came out. That was like all 3D, so we got to like kind of do a few um, action scenes um, at that part of the movie, and that was a lot of fun. And that's where I started to see that like you really get to influence the movie. For example, all the characters had like a superhero kind of alter ego, and they all had like little outfits. And I noticed like one of the characters, Plankton, didn't really have like a belt, a superhero belt. They all had one. So I'm like, is it okay if I just like take a stab at it? And they're like, yeah. And a version of that made it into the movie. And I'm like, that was the first time I was going like, wow, like I'm doing rough stuff here that like no one's ever gonna see. But you get to like impact the movie. So I got to work on Planet of the Apes 3, Spider-Man, Homecoming, and eventually, like a few years after I graduated Noman, I wound up at Lightstorm Entertainment working for James Cameron on Avatar. Um, so that was just such a huge journey from going to like just drawing and barely kind of like navigating my way through 3D. Clint taught me so much about like modeling and texturing and sculpting in ZBrush and rendering and lighting. And I think the most important thing I learned from him though was like troubleshooting. And so those skills like really helped me gain a reputation, and my eagerness to help people and problem solve. Like I think that made me um, a desired employee. So everything was all of these jobs I got basically from like word of mouth. Even now I like trace back and I'm like, yeah, that's where this person recommended me for this job, and that led to this person recommending me for this job, and it's just amazing how like interconnected everything was. So yeah, it's been a wild journey. I did 9 years, 9.5 years at nine, no, sorry, nine, let's be accurate. About 9 years at Lightstorm Entertainment, and then I got hired when we had wrapped on movie three. There's a little gap, and then I got hired at Disney Imagineering to help with some of the Avatar themed park that was coming to California Adventure. I think the reason why I got recommended for that job, other than just like people really recommending me and enjoying working with me, it was kind of, if you've seen the concept art that's out on the internet, it looks very similar to my main environment that I worked on for movies two and three. So that was just very exciting, and I'm really enjoying it. Can't really talk about any detail about that. That's going to be kind of pretty off limits. I can try to answer some like loose questions, but yeah, it's been a wild ride. So that's kind of my path in a nutshell. Oh, you're muted.
Keep that in mind when you ask questions, guys, that we will just, if they're questions that she cannot answer, we will just skip right over those because we do not want to, tread into that infringement area.
Yes, be very cognizant of the mouse and NDAs. Yes, I will do my best though.
Yes, the mouse is definitely very far-reaching and very, very protective. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no, no. Yeah, that's kind of like a compacted version of my journey. I'd say like going back to kind of the troubleshooting and the skills that I picked up in Indiana, like just learning about the software, really getting to know it like inside and out, like taking the time to understand what almost every little button does and submenu and being really active in forums. I know it's a different time, so things don't quite work that way anymore, but like there's so much information out there, there's tutorials, so there's still ways to like really deep dive and learn your software. Um, and if you find yourself doing like repetitive tasks, finding scripts that can like help you, a kind of shortcut and compact like repetitive things so that you can work quicker. People like someone who works quickly, people like someone who works thoroughly and communicates well. So those are major skills that I have really tried to polish over the years, and I'm still trying to polish. Let's see. Are there any like kind of questions up front that
Well, we do have a couple right now.
mhm.
Let's see. One, Chris is asking, how did you use those animation skills at the theme parks?
Yeah. So I'm not so much of an animator. My background is more modeling, texturing, and layout. Um, I have done a little tiny bit of animation. Like most of that was animating cameras and simple kind of like hinge stuff. Once in a blue moon, I'll animate a character, but it's very rare. In general, though, like the skills that I had going into the theme park, it's actually the second time I've gotten to work on a theme park. When I was at Halon doing previs, we actually got to do finals for a Mass Effect ride at let's see, oh gosh, it's called California's Great America. It's in like Central California. And so it was like a 3D ride, sort of more of a theater kind of. I think the chairs move a little bit, but you're in a theater. And that was a really cool experience. Like I was doing some modeling and texturing there, so ZBrush work. We had gotten files from like, oh gosh, I'm gonna name the wrong company. The people who made Mass Effect. They sent us like their source files, and so sometimes we would have to clean them up and make them work for what we were doing. I believe we used Unreal Engine for that ride. So there was like a team of us working on. I helped build out the environment. I helped with like there's a big creature, I can't remember the name of it, but a big monster and it needed a little like I guess in the video game, this much is showing on the screen, and they had sculpted the whole thing, but the torso needed, since we were going to be like flying through the legs of the creature, the torso needed some cleanup, so I got to like sculpt that out. And let's see, trying to think what else I did for that. There was like a little bit of a resort or something that was on a cliffside that your kind of ship was journeying to, and then you got attacked by a monster. So I got to work on that a little bit, and then we had like someone on the Unreal side who just took all of that work and assembled it. So even though I was working on Unreal projects, I wasn't really like touching Unreal until very, very recently. Like now that I'm at Imagineering, I am using a bit of Unreal. So as far as like the skills that I've acquired to work at a place like that, Unreal experience was helpful. ZBrush, yeah, Photoshop, being able to texture. I know my way around Maya very well now. And yeah, being able to do kind of quick conceptual stuff. Not everything is going to be glamorous. Sometimes it's just about communicating like what is important. So blocking out, and just knowing how to work with other file types. Like you're going to be getting things from all sorts of places, and they're going to be in so many different formats. And so just kind of learning, that's a lot of on the job learning, is how to handle um, files and data and keeping organized. And it's all really important because if you don't put in the work in the beginning to have kind of like a clean structure, you can see it fall apart very quickly. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, no, that's great. So just to reiterate, and this is for my students, um, you definitely want to put in the work up front to make things very organized, and that way the workflow is much easier. It saves you time on the end. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you hear that,
it's,
guys? Like we talk in class, make sure that you are spending the time to name layers and things like that.
oh yes. Like,
Sorry, I just
I
had to put
mean,
that plug in.
no, no, that's very good. Like every time I've worked with someone who has like gotten one of my files and they see that like I took the time to like label my Photoshop layers or organize my outliner in Maya and name everything so that it's not like, poly surface 500,087, like they really like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to balance that with time though. Like if someone's like, this is due yesterday, like, then sometimes you have to throw that out the window. And then someone might be receiving your stuff and go like, what, it happens. Like, but
Yep.
they're going to love you. Even it may be thankless at times, but they're going to love you, and it's going to work so much smoother if you do that. Um, I was in a lead position at Lightstorm when I got hired. I came in, I don't know, I'm not sure what level I was technically hired at, maybe mid-level. And they within 3 months they're like, "Do you want to be a lead?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they did that because when I got hired, there wasn't a lot of like tutorials or information about what the pipeline was going to be, and everything I learned was just talking to people when I got there. Then people started to, like, my supervisors were like starting to get stuck in meetings as the project was ramping up, and we'd have like, 6 new people show up, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll go around and show them the ropes. And so I was just doing that for everyone, and it was great because I got to know people very quickly. I got to help them through their problems. They taught me things that, like, oh man, because they're coming from all different walks of life. Some of them were straight out of school, and it's amazing, like the people who come straight out of school, I think there's this notion that, oh, they're new and they're not going to know that much. I mean, they may not have industry experience, but they are working with like the latest and greatest software. They are seeing like they're probably working with um, current techniques and things that maybe when you're stuck in a pipeline that is like frozen, and oh no, we're going to be using Maya 2024, for the next like 6 years. It's easy to kind of fall behind the curve. So being receptive to new people that are coming in, I think it's really important. And in turn, when you're the newbie, being respectful of the people who have like made that journey and who have, kind of settled in their positions is also really important too. Um, yeah, it makes for good collaboration.
Cool. All right. We have another question. This is a multi-part question. It
Mhm.
says, you've worked in so many different fields of computer graphics, from previs, animatics with SpongeBob and Avatar, and now designing theme park attractions with Disney. Can you describe the difficulties in those transitions, what you enjoyed most in each, and why the variety is something you desire?
Yeah, it's a good question. Forgive me if I jump out of order or lose my train of thought. I'm very good at that. So I guess when I started, I was really excited about like trying to make things look real. Like I was very fascinated with the rendering side. Um, So that I spent a lot of time watching the pixels form one at a time and hours waiting for renders to spit out, to just communicate like, oh, here's a product. I worked for AudioVox, which I think is still around in Indianapolis. They own the brands RCA and some others. So when I got hired out of school, I was doing product renders for them. That was fun. But then I started to get interested in like 2D animation a little bit, where I was they were also having me do like 2D illustration and stuff for products. So um, that led to, like, when I was at MediaSauce, I was working on 2D animation in Flash, 2D animation in After Effects, and I didn't know After Effects at all. So going in, I got to learn from my coworkers how it's basically like Photoshop with a timeline. And I learned a lot of tricks about compositing and how to time things out. So before I knew it, like, I was building out like entire animations for clients, like, on my own. It was not a ton of collaboration. Like, there were people who would, ideate and say, like, okay, here's the storyboards. Sometimes they were asking me to draw like the little kind of rough storyboards of how a animation was going to communicate like a product. Um, so I enjoyed that, but then I really started like missing like sculpting in ZBrush, and I wasn't getting a lot of 3D work. So um, I went back to Gnomon. I really enjoyed that. I got to like dive into, I thought I was going to do character modeling and texturing. I had a teacher who told me at one point, like, every time we go to these movies that are coming out and we talk about, what we loved about them, you keep mentioning how cool the environments look. Like, is it possible you want to be an environment artist? And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, I was so intimidated by them. Um, it was just so much work. I was thinking, like, well, if it takes me this long to model and texture like these little things on a single character, you want me to do that for trees and mountains, and like I couldn't even wrap my head around it. So I just like dismissed environments. I wanted to do the character stuff, the stuff that, like, takes up so much of CG Talk. Well, see, I think CG Talk is gone now, but ArtStation, like the glamorous stuff that was like front and center, the dream jobs at Pixar of like, oh, I got to make this character. So that was like my goal that I was heading toward. And then I got into previs and I started to fall in love with that. I'm like, wow, like, we're doing like quick sort of blockouts, but like I'm still getting to go there in ZBrush and play with sculpting characters and communicating, like, the overall like scene flow. And then after I was done with that, I got hired at Lightstorm to do environments, and I was intimidated, but I realized really quickly, like, we had, I was doing a little bit of modeling, texturing initially when I started, but when I got into like layout, and it was just like playing with Legos, like, grab these trees that the asset people are making, grab these rocks and like assemble them. If you don't have an asset, like, it was, sometimes I would go rogue and make one. But yeah, I just fell in love with like assembling scenes. I got to play with lighting. I fell in love with lighting. So those were all like, just as I'm doing this, I'm exploring and I'm finding things that like I want to pursue and learn. And it was just like another tool in the tool belt. So I got to work with Dylan Cole, who is just an amazing production designer. I didn't get to work with Ben Proctor as much, but I worked with him a little bit, and they're both just incredible production designers. And so working with Dylan, like, he would give me concept art and I would just do my damnedest to match it like as perfectly as possible. And so because I made that effort, like I think we got along very well. And he also challenged me, like, yeah, that's great for like this, but Mr. Cameron's going to be on a virtual camera where he's looking in 360 degrees. You can do that much of the environment, but there's a whole environment back here that you need to do. So that really allowed me to flex those muscles and build out what was beyond the camera. Sometimes that ends up being the thing that you weren't focusing on. You might spend all this time like modeling and texturing and laying out this one little section, this hero area, and then Jim looks at the whole environment and goes, "Oh, I want to be over there." And you just have to go with it. He's the director, so um, that got me to adjust my speed, especially when I was on stage. We were there while the actors were in their mocap suits. We
Wow.
had to be on stage. Virtual production is a whole other thing. Like I could go on and on about it. I'm pretty comfortable talking about that because like if it's public information and it's been like talked about, which they've been promoting the crap out of for Fire and Ash, like they've been doing all sorts of behind the scenes things, and I'm watching that stuff so I know what I'm able to like talk about and know what is like more proprietary, and I have to keep that like a lid on it. So yeah, let's shift over to virtual production real quick. So virtual production was crazy because we're on stage. We had this thing called the Brain Bar, and we have all different kinds of artists on there. So we had an environment person, usually, like if it was one of my scenes, the lead was there, maybe a support person. Um, we had some sequence people. Sequence was responsible for animation and containing like the overall scene. So all of our stuff was put into their files, and they were responsible for all the files, including the lighting team, including the environment, and then all of their work that they did. Jim would load that up and be looking at it real time on a virtual camera. And so the actors would be on stage in the volume, and we could instantly see what their characters were doing and how they were moving through the environment. And his camera, he would walk around or fly it around and could put it anywhere. And so you had to be prepared for when he chooses an angle, but there's something maybe that he doesn't like about the environment. Um, for example, I don't know if you guys saw the second movie. There was they revisited the shack from the first film, and it's all like kind of overgrown. And he pans to the left, and there's like a big mountain in the way. And he's like, "I don't want a mountain here. I need a whole forest thing. They're going to be over there later for another scene." So within an hour, he kicked that back to me. I had to chop the mountain out and put a forest in there. And I genuinely don't know how I did it, but I did. I threw something together, and that's basically what ended up being like the bones of the shootout that followed. Like, so I did that on the fly, and then that was kind of like locked in. And we continued to edit it over time. But those kind of quick in the moment changes really got me to, not be so fussy about getting every little detail right and being able to just get the gist of what he was asking for. So I guess that brings us to Imagineering. Can't talk too much about that, but yeah, I'm doing a little more in Unreal, and I'm very excited about where there's just so much that I'm learning from so many different angles. So yeah, it's a little overwhelming at times, but I know that in a couple of years, it's just I'm gonna have even more tools in my tool belt. So
I love the way you're talking about James Cameron, this awesome director. You're calling him Jim. I mean, that is
so I know
that's awesome.
everyone does that. So it's not as silly as it sounds.
No,
Like,
no,
oh
no.
yeah,
I just think it's
but
awesome that you like know him that well. I'm like totally in awe.
that's what he actually he prefers that. That when you're working with him, that's what he
Oh
prefers. No one
wow.
call. I think James Cameron's kind of, in my understanding, is more of a brand. That's like the public
Gotcha.
face. But when you work with him, it's Jim.
It's Jim.
And so, but I always forget every time I drop that, people laugh.
No, it's just awesome.
So, yeah, and he really, like, one night he told me not to call him sir. I said good night, sir, and I'm like, Jim, sorry. He's
That is
like,
too
just
funny.
chill. It's cool. So I
Oh,
had a really nice time working with him.
awesome.
He challenged me. Like, there were times where I had to go down on stage, and he'd give me some marching orders directly, and like, okay.
Wow.
And so that was incredible. And watching
Oh
him
yeah.
working with the actors, like, he is an amazing director. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm very grateful for my time there.
Awesome. It sounds amazing. Okay, so another question. You mentioned refining your skills and setting yourself up for success based on the optimal employee. Do you have any advice on how you were able to put yourself in the right room to showcase those skills to land the role?
Um, I think it comes down to a few things. I think personality is one. It You can have, like, great skills, but you also need to be able to communicate and be be flexible, and yeah, I think personality is a lot of it. Let's see. I'm sorry. I lost my
Yeah,
train of thought. I
no, no,
derailed myself.
you're totally
Once
fine.
more, can you repeat the
Um,
question so I can better answer it?
you can let me go back to it. I'm sorry about that. Um, You mentioned refining your skills and setting yourself up for success based on the optimal employee. Do you have any advice on how you were able to put yourself in the right rooms to
Okay.
showcase those skills to land you the role?
Um, so as far as the right room, I mean, it's not something that you can really decide, but when you make the extra effort, people notice. And if people don't notice, it might be that your time at that place is kind of, you've stagnated, you've kind of reached a point where, okay, maybe there's not room for growth here. Um, it is really volatile right now, the industry. It's hard to get work. So I hope that once things kind of pick back up and you have the flexibility to be able to decide if a job is right for you, um, you have the wisdom to, like, be able to move on. So at Media Sauce, I realized I was really stagnating, and there wasn't really much room for growth there, especially if I wanted to do more 3D stuff, because most of the stuff that was landing on my plate was going to be motion graphics, which is fun, but not ultimately where I wanted to go. So, as far as being in the right room, I mean, I just think about, like, the person who recommended me for the job for Lightstorm. I had no idea that I actually made an impression on that person. Like, when I found out who recommended me, I was like, really? Like, I worked with him and he was nice, but, like, why did he think of me? Like, it totally caught me off guard. I was, and I am forever grateful to that person. His name is Paulo. I love Paulo so much, and he's an amazing supervisor on Avatar. And I worked with him previously at Halon Entertainment. I had no idea that he recognized something in me, and was willing to vouch for me.
So you never know
So
where you're going to make an impression to.
you really don't. So, like, and when I was at Lightstorm, as I've said before, like, I think my supervisor saw that immediately when I'm welcoming new artists, and helping them with troubleshoot their software and troubleshoot like just figuring out what our system is. Um, that they saw that, and they recognized that I wanted to be in kind of like a leadership position. So yeah, it that happened very quickly, and it's not something that I planned for. I kind of know where that moment started for me, though. I was working on a job for Halon for Spider-Man, and realized that like there was kind of there was a gap where we needed a little more leadership, so a little more organization. And so I just tried my best to keep like providing support for my fellow artists. And I several of them like just thanked me for the effort that I did. And I realized very quickly that um, as difficult as that job was, when I got to Lightstorm, those were the skills that I was using initially to kind of help establish a leadership role. So, um, yeah, I think just make yourself an asset. Make sure you stand out, but don't overstep. There's a balance. Like if there is someone already in that position and you start competing with them, that can go one of two ways. And typically it's going to go better for the person who's already there. So yeah, if you butt heads with people, um, find a way to work with them. That is also just a big piece of advice. It's a very small industry. It is a very, very small industry, and I've worked with the same people on multiple jobs, and you never know who you're going to run into again. And
And when you
so
say the same
it's
people at multiple jobs, is it always with the same company, or
no
there's a lot of crossover and changing of jobs?
crossover. Yeah, like there were several people I worked with at Halon who I worked with at Lightstorm. There was a small company I worked for a minute, doing character stuff for a tablet company. It was like they made like iPads for kids. And I met a handful of people there that were super fun to work with. I ended up working with them, or one of them, on at least one job after that, totally unrelated.
Wow. So you never know who
Doing
you're
like
going to meet
augmented
later.
reality. Yeah. So, and yeah, even if it's someone who you really don't get along with, like find a way to get along with them
Yeah.
is my biggest advice. It will
Awesome.
be easier for both of you.
We have another question that says, how was your prior positions and projects? I'm sorry, how have they readied you for themed attractions at Disney?
I feel like I've covered that,
Yeah,
but
do you have, actually, maybe I should
yeah.
have said, yes, you've covered a lot. Do you have anything else to add to that? And if the answer is no, that's fine. I just wanted to
I'm
trying to
just
make
trying
sure
to
I'm
think.
asking.
I'm running my NDA filter on. Um,
You know what? We're not going to put you on the spot. How about we move on
yeah.
to, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I
want to
feel
push.
like I've answered that one,
Yeah,
but
no, no, totally
yeah.
great, totally great. You mentioned troubleshooting. How do you
Hmm.
best describe that as a skill or mindset when applying to a professional position?
Yeah.
Also, I'm a huge Mass Effects fan. Thank you for sharing that about your experience.
Yeah, it's, as I'm sitting here talking, like I had a few examples of stuff I worked on that I can pull up, but I I'm realizing like there's so much I forgot about. There was an augmented reality company that I worked for a little bit that like we did they were doing stuff for like engineers, but then I was working on coloring books for them that when you color in the characters, they would pop up on your phone and in 3D, and the kids would see how they drew, however they colored the character in. That's how the character would appear colored in on their app. And so that was a fun experience. But I've done so many weird little jobs that I forget about. And I've already derailed myself. I'm so sorry.
No, no,
I'm
no.
very scatterbrained. Repeat that question one
Hey,
more
that is
time
a
so I
sign
can
of a true
properly answer.
creative. Um,
Yeah,
you mentioned troubleshooting. How do you best
troubleshooting.
describe
Okay.
that as a skill or mindset?
Yes. So uh, when I was in Clint's class, CG Talk was like the place to go to. It it is not really around anymore. I mean, it's kind of I think it's now CG Society, and if that, I don't even know if that's around anymore. But it was just a place that like if I had a question, I could post it and get an answer. I could browse, I used it easier than Google. Like nowadays with AI, like you can Google stuff and get immediate answers. So like, and I've been leaning on that pretty heavily. As much as I have some issues with AI, I think filtering through all the data that's out there is a really good use of it. To help you get to whatever problem you're having. As far as like troubleshooting specifically, um, I mean, I would just have crashes and I never stopped asking why. Like most people would kind of throw their hands up or just kick it over to IT. So if you're willing to take a little time to like try to investigate and educate yourself on why it's happening, then knowledge gained is potential knowledge shared. And you share that with people and they remember it. They're like, I can't tell you how many times I've helped out coworkers like in a bind. And I love doing that. Because if I hit the wall so many times and when they do the same for me, it's just like the relief is is incredible. So I think that's why it's such an important skill because as as cool as this industry is, it's full of bugs and it's um it's technically it's just a lot of information to sift through. And so figuring out a way to kind of navigate through all of that information and get the answers you need so that you can keep working and instead of just kind of giving up and waiting for someone else to fix your problems, that makes you a really useful asset at a company. So
Awesome.
hope that answers that.
Yeah. All right. What role is AI currently playing in your work?
Um, I do not use it visually. I have used it for scripting to be able to like shortcut if I need to work on hundreds of files and go through and figure out which ones have bad UVs or bad geometry or bad names, issues with the textures, give me feedback on like, okay, which out of all of these, which ones of these have these kind of maps attached to it so I can better organize them this way. That's about as detailed as I can get. But yeah, I've used it to help navigate through mountains of data and and batch automate things that would take me hours to open up and check manually. And where I feel like software is lacking, like there's a lot of filtering that I want to be able to do in software that it's just not built in. So that's where plugins come in and scripts that can help sift through that data. And I don't think I could do my job without some kind of method of filtering through massive amounts of information.
So it's a really great resource.
It's a great resource, but you have to be very careful because it cannot be the thing that is holding up your entire, like if it were to disappear for whatever reason
Yeah.
and you can't do anything, then that is a problem. You
Yeah.
cannot become so reliant on it that you stop being able to function. So
Okay.
I think it's really important visually that you you know how to do it yourself and not rely so much on the tool to do it for you.
Awesome. Okay. That was a great answer. I love that. All right. You went from being intimidated by environments to building, correcting them on the fly for an active production. Besides being less fussy, were there any other things that helped you make that transition?
Hmm. Um, I mean, we were fortunate enough to be at a company that had really robust tools that allowed us to do that. So, and that was something completely out of my control. The James Cameron like really spent a lot of time building a system that can work on the fly and do whatever he needs whenever he needs it. Like, so the amount of time and effort from so many different people to make that happen is what made us able to keep up with his pace. Um, and as far as like just being able to kind of put that aside, that's just a discipline thing. That's, you have to perform when he asks. So yeah, I can give you another example, which I always enjoyed this one. The shark attack scene in in movie two that was called the Akula attack. And we had built a set that was not quite working, and that was in a tank of water, a giant tank of water. So it got dismantled, which means that usually we would have a virtual, an environment that would line up with the um, some obstacles and things that they would put on stage for the actors to interact with. So we would build out terrain and then we would give that to a team that would interpret that as angled blocks that the characters could run on. And so we had a virtual that lined up with the practical. If there was a tree that they had to put their hand on, they would have something there on stage for them to make contact with, and they would align that with the virtual. Um, so when you have a physical set that, Loak's supposed to swim through all of this coral, when you have a physical set in a tank of water that is suddenly removed and rebuilt on the fly, you don't have a virtual anymore that lines up with what the actor is going to be touching. So we had to do that on the fly, and we had a diver who, his name was Chris. He was holding his breath, and once they had built the new set, he was holding his breath and going like this along the set. Then they recorded that, and I would play that back, and I see a character in a motion capture suit, like going like this to nothing. I had to put geometry in the nothing area that he was contacting so that it looked like he was making contact. And that became the bones of the Akula attack. So we had to like reverse engineer, and it was like a half a day that we were doing that, and it was very rushed, but it was exhilarating, and I enjoyed working kind of like backwards that day. So,
Oh, so cool. So very cool. Um, all right, I've another one. Thanking you so much for your time. And they're asking what challenges or considerations came up when you transitioned from designing digital environments to designing physical ones.
um, so I haven't been super involved with designing physical ones. The My title at Imagineering, if I'm getting this right, it's a concept designer. I am not necessarily designing like parks and things. Like a lot of that stuff is in place. I am there to support the role. There will be instances where I will be asked for designing something, but I can't really go into that,
Right.
unfortunately.
Okay. That
So,
no worries. No
but
worries at all.
as far as like Lightstorm goes, like there were plenty of times that we worked on things that had to be practically built. So it just required a lot of collaboration of building out geometry, going through approval, sending it to New Zealand or whoever was going to physically build it, and then once it was built, they would have to do LiDAR scans and send it back to us so that if we had to do any modifications afterward, we had a representation of what they did on stage that day. So, yeah, that's about as best I can answer that question.
No worries whatsoever. All right, I think we have being conscious of your time, I think we have time for maybe one more question. And this one actually comes from Clint. Many of our
Hi,
students
Clint.
find it difficult to think beyond Indiana. How were you able to believe in yourself to work in the most professional setting of LA in our field of CGT art and make it happen? And how can you, or, I'm sorry, how can we as instructors better instill that belief in our students?
Yeah. Okay, good question. So, I mean, it was a little easier for me because I am from California,
Oh,
so I lived in Indiana for about a total of 6.5 years. Um, so I did 2.5 years at college, and then I did 2.5 years finishing my degree. Um, then worked for about 4 years. So by the end of that, when I hit that point where I realized I'm not growing and there's not a lot of job opportunity out there, like you need to be willing to forego the comfort of just chilling where you are. Um, if you can afford to do that. Right now, I would not be giving that advice. If we ever get to that point again, I would say, be willing to just take a leap and go where you need to. If you are kind of balancing that where you need income and more education, then take a class. Like if you can't afford a class, then there are so many resources online now. It's like not even funny. So like find a way to continue to educate yourself. And um yeah, you just have to leave what is comfortable to you never know what you're going to encounter. Um, I know it can be intimidating and scary. It can be moving also out to California. It can be incredibly expensive. It is not cheap out here. Um, but, roommates, people make it work. And um, yeah, just getting getting to know people in the industry is helpful. You can't, I can't just vouch for someone. Like if someone reached out to me and said, hey, like here's my reel, like I'll, give them feedback. But it it kind of takes some working with them and getting to know them to really be able to recommend someone. So you just have to start finding work somewhere so that someone can help you to the next step and the next step. Um, yeah, I think that's just the biggest lesson I've learned is it was people that helped me get to where I was at. A lot of times putting out a resume and just applying to a job on LinkedIn, I just don't think that is a great way of finding work because I've got I've got friends right now who are still looking, um, award winners and people who are incredibly talented, and yeah, it's difficult out there. So be willing to be willing to talk to people, get to know them, find a way to maybe you can work on a collaborative project with them for fun. And that is a way that they can get to know what it's like working with you. And then they can vouch for you. Because I know there's that paradox of you need experience to get experience. So find a way to get that experience and share it. Um, if you need to work on your own, go for it. But keep track of what you did and how you did it so that you can communicate that in interviews and really vouch for uh, the skills that you have.
Awesome. Well, Christina, this has been amazing. You have shared so much information with everybody, and I know they are totally loving this. I was totally enamored with Jim and all those stories and everything you shared. This was really great. Um, any last parting word, pearls of wisdom you want to share, or any last few words that you want to impart with?
Um, have also have a hobby. Like it's very easy to get stuck on this computer box and like I'm trying to break up my digital life with when I finish work, um it's good to have some other things that you can do that are separate from your daily grind. I do a lot of crafting and I have like crafting ADD, so I'm always like I'm into sewing and then I go over and I start doing like 3D printing and then I go over here and I start playing with beads and so I'm kind of all over the place, but like I'm just hungry for like a variety of
Makes sense.
things and just getting to do something tactile I think is really fun. Um, and I still get to flex like those artistic skills that maybe, started to atrophy if you're working in a very digital, technical world. Um, like toward the end of the Avatar movies, it was a lot of file management. It was a lot of opening files, checking them. It was less of the art because everything's kind of locked in. Once things are starting to be locked in, you can't be like, oh shoot, I messed this up. And then I'll just go and fix it in the shot. Well, now it's inconsistent with all the other 10,000 shots. And so you really had to like put your artist cap down and just put your technical management cap on. So finding a way to like keep those skills from atrophying and
That's that's
keep
really
your
great advice.
interest,
That's really great
I
advice.
think would be really important. Um,
And
so, or,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no,
I personally have one very quick question because I don't want to keep you any
go
longer.
for it.
Of all the Avatar movies that you worked on, I'm not asking you to share anything other than a personal opinion. What is your favorite scene that you worked on?
Oof.
That as we go back and watch them, we can say, we knew the person who did this.
I mean, it was kind of the Akula attack. Like,
Okay,
honestly,
okay.
like that was
And
so
that's
much
in the second
fun.
one, right?
That's in the second
Yeah.
one. That was where, yeah, so like Loak is stranded. He gets abandoned, and they the shark thing comes and attacks him, and like building out the fractal reef that was
Okay.
like his little maze and dressing all of that up really dense with coral was like a lot of fun.
Well, now I'm gonna have to go back and
And
watch it and say, I know the person who did this.
yeah, I've tried to like take little uh snippets and put them in my reel of like
Awesome.
some various environments. I got to work on like Cove of the Ancestors was my big one. So that's the one with the big C-shaped rock. It's where the whole like last third act battle of
Okay.
movie three
Yeah.
happens. The spirit tree. We see a little bit of it in movie two, but that was my baby for the last movie.
Oh, wow.
And just even like small environments, like there were little one-off ones that just one day they'd be like, oh shoot, we need like a village here. They're burning down another village. So let's can you like build this thing so we can destroy it? And Like I loved those. Those were like, because those would pop up like randomly while we were kind of like mostly done with the other stuff. So that like fed my little artist like, oh yeah, I get to do some layout again. Seawall, there was like a seawall village that's like probably in the movie for like 30 seconds, if that. And yeah, uh, all sorts of that, like the whole shack sequence in the movie too. That was my baby for movie two. That was a lot. It
Very,
was several environments all connected. So
very awesome. Now I can't wait to go back and watch them again. So I personally think the third one's the best, but they're all wonderful.
they were a
So
lot of fun. Yeah,
yes, I'm definitely have a
it's
new appreciation for the second one now.
awesome. I personally am just as cool as it was to like build the bones of it and work with so many people in the LA side. Like I can't even tell you the talent that is over here. Like it was just incredible. We're doing stuff that like no one is gonna really see. Like there's a few behind the scenes things I found that shows like what our work looked like, which was kind of I'd equate it to like working in Unreal Engine
Gotcha.
where it was a real time renderer and we could dial in lighting, we could really communicate a lot with it. But what Weta did with our stuff is just so humbling. Like they did next level award-winning CG that I just can't even wrap my head around. I would have loved to have been, I never got an opportunity, but I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall just to see what they do to take our like video game version of the movie and then just make it photo real. And as much as I loved environments, I mean, I've done a full 180 here where I couldn't stop staring at their faces, like the character animation, the all the nuances in their faces, like was just
Just like the pore
mesmerizing.
detail and the
It
freckle.
it's insane the way the wrinkles would move, and like at no point did I go like, oh man, that's really CG. Like
Exactly.
I we are nearly crossing the uncanny valley. Like we're so close. It's insane. I just could not believe how much life and emotion came through these characters. And I mean that also goes to show like um what the actors did and what how hard Jim worked on getting that emotional performance. I think that was probably what took up most of our time was him trying to capture the emotional performance
Oh, and
of
it was
like it
amazing. I
was
cannot remember the
so
name of
important.
the villainess in the third one. I can't remember her name, but
Varong.
yes, thank you. But I actually saw like a behind the scenes thing where it was the actual actress
Yeah,
in the split screen and then the character,
yeah,
and I'm like, just the movements and
yeah,
just blew my mind. So yeah, I totally get what
yeah.
you're saying. So
It's so cool because like we would see that footage over and over again of like what they were doing on stage. We have reference cameras. We've got the virtual camera which shows whatever angle Jim captured. But then we've got these reference cameras where these guys were sitting there with classic cameras over their shoulder and from every angle, some of them close up on certain characters' faces. And so we've seen these performances in detail from every angle over and over again as we're refining the final step. And I just I look at the CG and I'm like, I just can't believe it's like so it's so good.
yeah,
It's so incredibly good. Yeah.
it's mind
So
blowing. It really is.
I'm so proud to have been a part of like that whole team and that whole process and just something that was so groundbreaking. I hope we win another Academy Award for visual effects. I
Fingers
really
crossed.
hope. I'm so sad that the production designers didn't get nominated. Like they really deserved it. I cannot tell you how hard everyone worked. Just amazing artists, um, all around. So yeah, really, really happy to have been a part of that, and so excited about gosh, the number of people that I work with now are just like, oh my God, you're like this famous illustrator that worked on this and you made these like animatronics and like you're a Disney legend. Like it's crazy to work with like just so many people who come from so many different walks of life and have such amazing talent and are
Well,
approachable, you
and
know.
you are definitely one of those. So, hats off to you. We
Thank
are
you.
in awe. Well, again, we want to be conscious of your time. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate this. We can't thank you enough. And just, have a great day.
Thank you. Good luck to everyone, and I hope that I wish you guys like the best of luck in your journey. Like hang in there. Like they're going to be rough times. Like I've seen it plenty of times. There's strikes and work gaps and whatnot, but like things always come back. So just hang in there, keep doing what you love, and yeah, and don't be afraid to move out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Good. Great advice. Awesome.
Alrighty.
Thank you again.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Thank you too.